Today, Calgary is a different place than it was yesterday.
Some pretty open-ended questions to start with. The first one is, what do you think your biggest success of the past year has been?
Well, I think there have been a number of big successes. The first is one that is difficult to measure, and that really is around a change in tone and attitude at the capital C-City, and I think throughout Calgary. You know, there's a real sense of optimism and of anything is possible throughout the community, and I think that's important. When we look back at the City Council prior to the election, you know, they fought all the time. It was bitter, it was divided, it was partisan, and I'm not sure that they were making the best decisions in the interests of the entire community. And it's very, very different now. So we may have very, very long meetings, much the bane of a reporter's existence. But we have principled, good discussions, and I think we've done a good job on making good decisions. But it's not just about sunshine and rainbows, right? We've actually gotten a ton of stuff done. And I think that if we look back over what we've accomplished over the year, it's a pretty big list. You know, starting on the money side, we did something that fiscal hawks of the past were never able to do, which is to get council to commit to increasing taxes only by inflation plus growth over the next 3 years. We have committed to zero-based budget reviews, and we're looking for $140 million in efficiencies throughout the budget, and I think those are pretty significant things. So we will maintain a world where our property taxes will stay the lowest in Canada, but will provide services that people need while becoming a leaner and more efficient organization. So I think I'm pretty excited about that.
What do you consider your biggest failure of the last year?
Well, you know, there have been two major policy failures, and Darcy tells me I'm not supposed to use the word failure, but I like to be honest about this, because we have not succeeded in doing two things that I really wanted to have done over the course of this year. Number one was to change the time of our council meetings so that people didn't have to take a whole day off work. I still try to fight with my council about that. And number two, of course, is the issue of secondary suites. I'm really pleased that council has been able to move the ball down the field on this, because we really have made some significant change. You know, we've made it much easier for people in, so I think almost, if my numbers aren't wrong, almost 200,000 homes across the city where secondary suites were already legal to actually get one. We've changed the process from something that could take 100 days to something that should take fewer than 20 days for a very, very large swath of homes. We've also ensured that every new neighborhood that is built in Calgary will be zoned so that secondary suites are legal in those neighborhoods. We still have 130,000 or so homes in Calgary where these are not legal, and we know that many of them have illegal suites, and we have to figure out a way to regulate those for the safety of the tenants in them. That's really the number one issue, and council hasn't gotten there yet. Will this council be able to get there? I don't know, but it's certainly something that we're going to have to continue to work on.
When asked about your two failings, you speak about things that you wanted but council didn't go along with. What are when you think about the things that you you wish you had done better or you didn't quite accomplish, not based on what other people thought, but based on your limitations or your maybe a rookie mistake?
I'm not sure I can think of any. Largely because I don't have any power, as you know. I'm just one vote on council. So it really is my ability to bring council together on issues. I'm actually very pleased with council's ability to move forward on stuff and think about what's best for the city. I mean, this is very, very different than the way the city council worked before when I was on the outside.
You have a reputation as a piercing critic. I'd like to hear some self-criticism of your own performance.
I need to get my hair cut much more often. The pictures are terrible. And of course, we think hard about how we manage things. But I'm actually very pleased. I've pulled together a great staff. They do good work, and I think that the relationship with council is very, very good. You know, all 14 of them, I'm able to sit down with and have good conversations with. I think that the relationship with the city staff is good. I think that people are generally happy. Now, we're going to have some very tough decisions to make when it comes to budget in particular. The next 6 weeks are not going to be all sunshine and roses for everyone in the city. But the key that I have aimed for is really inviting people into the discussion, or having open discussions that Calgarians can feel that they can participate in. So even if they disagree with the decisions that we make, they know that they have an opportunity to talk about those. It's all about the politics in full sentences thing, and I think people have responded really, really well to that. So have we made any terrible mistakes? I got to say, I don't think so, because we've really been trying to make our decisions based on the best possible information to make the decision, including the best possible input from the public.
One of the things
And there's no point in criticizing if there's nothing to criticize. I was never a piercing critic for the sake of being a jerk. Then I'd work at the Calgary Sun. But, it was because things were going wrong.
To what extent do you believe in your gut when you go to speak to people, when you read your press? Do you feel, when you read your letters, comments, Twitter, call-ins, do you feel that's an accurate reflection of how
I don't live my life based on those kinds of numbers, right? I just want to do good work. But that said, yeah, actually, I was walking down the street with a very, very seasoned journalist a couple of weeks ago. They were just shooting some B-roll for me, shall we say, one of the most seasoned journalists in the country. And when we got from here to the end of Stephen Avenue, he said he's never seen anything like that before. The number of people who wanted to come and say hello. And his question for me was, how many people approach you on the street and get really angry at you? And when I said, I don't think that's ever happened, and Darcy, who was with me, and I were thinking about it and went, well, there was that one guy, but he wasn't really mad. He just wanted you to explain that deal. When people disagree with stuff that council has done, they're not shy about talking to me about it. And I'm not shy about having a conversation with them. Heck, sometimes I'll fight with them about it. That's just who I am. But people are willing to enter into that conversation. And so that's what I'm excited about. The numbers don't matter. What matters is that we're doing stuff that people think is the right stuff to do for Calgary. That poll said, I think it said that I had the highest approval rating of any public official in Canada, and that's great to hear. But what really matters is, what does that mean every day? How does that allow me to help make good decisions in order to help people live a better life in the city? And that's what I'm focused on.
What are for the next 2 years or next year, what are your big efforts? What do you really want to do?
Well, we have got a bunch of stuff. This first year was really about a lot of rip off the Band-Aid stuff. A lot of stuff that had to get done relatively quickly. And I'm glad that we've gotten as far as we've gotten, and I think our success rating, we're batting pretty high, so I'm pleased about that. Over the next year, once we get through budget, which is going to be of course, the main issue over the course of the next 6 or 8 weeks. Once we get through that, I am going to suggest that my personal agenda, and I hope council will agree with me, is on 3 big elements. The first we've already discussed, and that is around really thinking about the planning and development area and how we can rejig our planning process and think about that in a more thoughtful way. Number 2, one of my personal goals is actually something else that we've already talked about, which is the real opportunity to take a good hard look at Calgary Transit, to develop a long-term capital plan for transit, which they've never really had, I think, in a rigorous way before, and use this new customer advisory group as a sounding board for really thinking about what the future of that whole organization is and how it can better serve Calgarians. And the third is continuing to work with the provincial government on a city charter and on developing a way that the city's authority is much better aligned with the services that we have to provide.
I get the very firm sense from everything I hear that that you're going to be attacked from the right, hard, soon.
Yeah, on what?
But
on what?
On the community's infrastructure fund, on bringing the tax level up to that.
So let's see. If you believe that the right matters, we've gotten a plan to reduce the city's debt. We've held the taxes to inflation plus growth, which Rick McIver was never able to do after 9 years of trying. We put in zero-based budget reviews. We have the lowest property taxes in Canada. We're looking for $140 in efficiency. Bring it on. What quote-unquote member from the right could have done a better job than that? I'm happy to take it.
10% tax hike.
To create a permanent fund for capital for money that we used to ask for the province for. So now we can fund libraries and rec centers that the previous council was unable to fund. It wasn't a left-wing, right-wing issue. It was about providing services that people need.
No, but then, you know, is it a 10% tax increase, or is it inflation plus?
People are paying exactly what we promised them. Exactly what we promised them. Instead of me going cap in hand to the province and saying, please, 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 can I have $100 million or $40 million this year? We now have a permanent source of funds from the province. So we can argue about that all we want. Nobody cares. They know that they're paying a third less than the previous council promised, and they're getting services that the previous council was unable to actually deliver, even though they were going to raise their taxes by more. I don't think that's a problem. We're going to have some really, really tough decisions in this budget, and it's going to get really, really difficult. And we've had tough decisions in the past, but you know what? What this council has proven itself able to do, which the previous council could not, is make a decision and move on. And we've had 8 to 7 votes, just like the old council did. But we don't let them define who we are and make it impossible for us to work together on anything else. So yeah, of course there's going to be stuff that we don't all agree on. Anyone who sat through council would never describe it as kumbaya. We have passionate disagreements about many things. But as long as those disagreements are principled, and we are actually living in a world where it is possible to change your mind, and then when we make a decision, we move on. That's what I promised a year ago, and that's what we've been able to deliver on.